Today we're going to be checking out A Plague Tale Requiem on the OLED Steam Deck. You know the drill. We're going to be going through all the settings from low all the way to ultra, just to see what we can get out of this little Steam Deck. All right, to start things off, we're going to jump into our settings. We're going to keep it at 90 Hertz on the Steam Deck, but we're going to do low FSR balanced. This will be our first test. And right off the gates, we are at like a mid 30s in the little town square with tons of people all over the place. So I'm actually like really impressed with how this is performing. Not to mention, this is like a really beautiful game. Not that that's any news, everybody knows that. It looks great. It is like kind of struggling, but it's staying pretty much above 30 frames per second, which is wonderful. This is good to see. All right, but this is only low, so now we're gonna jump in, boost things up to medium, and I'm already getting a little bit worried. So let's see how this does. I'm out of the little town area, so there aren't as many people, and we are still staying above 30 frames per second. This is still FSR balanced, so we do have some ability to increase that if you want to get a little bit more performance out of this thing. But honestly, if I could get 30 frames per second at medium, I would lock in on that and play this game like this. It looks great. But now it looks like it's time to get crazy. Jump things up to high, still staying at that FSR balanced. And I'm gonna tell you, this probably isn't gonna be so balanced. Okay, it's starting off really strong, but we are in a little room here, so there's not a lot going on. I'm actually really impressed right now that it's staying above 30 frames per second this entire time. Okay, there was a big dip right there to 26 frames per second. But really, it's kind of holding its own right now. This is interesting. Typically games start like performing better the longer you play on the new settings, but this is doing the opposite. The longer we're doing this, the more it's going down. Now it's time to get insane. We're gonna go to ultra settings, still FSR balanced. Let's see what happens. And as anyone could have probably guessed, not so great. We're at the low 20s, hitting 20 all the time. Like, you definitely wouldn't play this game at ultra FSR balanced. In fact, I'm actually kind of surprised at how well it is playing this at ultra settings. This is pretty surprising. Not that anybody's gonna play it like this, but it is interesting. Now I wanna try to cap at 30 Hertz on the Steam Deck and then go back to the high settings and put FSR at performance. So here we are, we're gonna do a frame limit to 30, and then we're gonna jump into the settings, change it to high, and the FSR to performance. And with that, everything looks like exactly how we want it. And hopefully this gives us some good results, because this could be a really viable option of how to play this game. And not to get my hopes up too much right off the get-go, but it's looking pretty good, except for that little dip there. But other than that, it's almost, oh, it's not anymore. Okay, it's trying so hard. I certainly wouldn't put this out of the range of like playable, but it's not great. So maybe high is just like a little too much. You could just lower some of the settings and probably get something great out of that. But now we're gonna do ultra FSR performance. And look at that. It's doing better than it did at high. But that doesn't mean much because, you know, we're in this little area right now. And now it's dipping into the mid 20s, a little bit low 24s, 25s. It really wants to. It's like it so desperately wants to get up to that 30 frames per second. Like it keeps just kissing it and then just running away because it's like so scared about everything. I think the Steam Deck thinks the Ally X is like coming up right behind it. Okay, so ultra is wishful thinking. We're gonna go back to high, but test it out with FSR ultra performance. Maybe this could be doable. However, ultra performance FSR typically looks horrendous. So, I don't know, I guess we'll find out. I'm also gonna bring the hertz back to 90 just in case. You know, you never know. Like, look at this. 45, 41. This is actually not so bad. So if you can deal with what it looks like when you bring FSR to ultra performance, then this is great. Getting 40 plus frames per second, obviously very playable. This is great. Why not, you know? Why not just use these things to fix the games instead of just making the games work? Okay, because that was doing so well, now I want to go back to Ultra. I know we're doing circles here. Back to Ultra performance. Okay, see what we're doing here? We're just kind of going back and forth. But I do want to see, since we're getting 45 frames per second, if this is going to work. This is Ultra settings, FSR, Ultra performance. Dude, and the performance on Ultra settings seems to be almost the same as high settings when we're set to FSR Ultra performance. So, I mean, this is all like some of the weird fragmenty stuff when you do Ultra performance on FSR is just like too much for me. I don't like it. If you're at home or have a good internet connection, the best way to play it is just to go onto GeForce Now. That's what I do if I'm gonna actually want to play this game and I'm at home. Obviously, if I don't have good internet or something, then I can't do this. But when you launch it on GeForce Now, we can just crank everything to Ultra. Just max out all of it. Ray tracing, everything. Just max it out. We can also jump up the resolution to beyond what the Steam Deck can handle, because it actually does make a noticeable difference. Even 800p to full HD does make a difference. I understand the screen isn't 1080p, but streaming the game at full HD, it's a noticeable difference. So let's jump into the game and check out what it looks like. And right away, oh my gosh, dude, it looks so freaking good. And we're just getting a buttery smooth 60 frames per second across the board. Yeah, if you wanted no latency, the ping, then you could wire yourself in. But, you know, the whole point of this, though, is to be mobile. So I'm going to be, you know, on my couch or on my bed or something like that. And so I'm not going to be wired in. So this is a more real life case study of what the ping is going to be like. Mind you, the frames per second are not hurting at all. And I'm really looking forward to the day that GeForce unlocks a native Linux app so that we could get that 120 frames per second. Because right now, this is just running off the web browser version, so we're limited to that 60 frames per second. But I mean, look at this. It looks so good. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I hope this video was helpful and inspired you to find your path and settings. After all, death is the inevitable unifier of us all. And it's important that we have, you know, some quality of life before that happens. Later.